back to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. At this point in the podcast, we have heard so many wonderful stories of people who've come into interior design as a second career, and they've often described that moment of truth where they had to just take the leap, right? Well, for my guest today, Carissa Miller of CC and Mike, that moment was a little different. She describes it in the show today as a completely unexpected opportunity. And of course, in many ways, you'll hear that it was. The firm that she and her husband run together started by accident because an Instagram post went viral and it launched everything. Before she knew it, she was being interviewed by One Kings Lane and Pottery Barn. She was being bombarded by people wanting her and her husband to design and build for them. But as I quickly discovered in my conversation with Carissa, her journey was about so much more than that happy accident. It was, in truth, a lifetime of cultivated experiences, of hands-on education, and of learning and growing through mistakes that ultimately culminated in that one fortunate moment. So today, Carissa is going to walk us through how she balanced a rapidly growing business that she never saw coming and how she and her husband navigated the unique challenges that come with running a business with your spouse. I have a little to say on that. Anyway, as you'll hear, one of the struggles that Carissa faced early on was getting a handle on the processes and procedures that they needed to have in place so that they could effectively run their business. If you are looking for processes that will make things smoother for you, you need to look to our show sponsor, My Doma Studio. My Doma Studio is your complete interior design toolkit, right? This amazing workflow software enables you to organize design projects from beginning to end. It keeps track of the process for you, from correspondence to approvals to product specs and so much more. On top of that, they also have a fabulous design community with other like-minded interior designers to give you a place to ask questions and get useful tips. You can get started with your trial today at mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. And I just want to say that we are right now in early bird registration for Process Leads to Profits. Sara Brennan is teaching this course for the third time. More than 70 interior designers have gone through the course, everyone singing its praises. And I bring it up in context of this because A, you're going to hear Carissa mention how processes and systems are a challenge. B, of course, we have My Doma Studio to help us do that. But C, Sarah Daniele literally came up with the genius of her process and systems with the help of using My Doma Studio in her business. It was like taking the best of My Doma, the best of all the things she learned on the podcast, and then adding her own little sprinkle of magic to it. And this is how she has made her business so successful and so systemized. So if you want some of that in your business, I definitely suggest that you get on your free trial of My Doma Studio, but you also go check out ProcessLeadsToProfits.com. All right, so today, Carissa and her husband run CC and Mike, offering CC full-service interior design, build, and remodel services to their clients nationwide. They launched it in 2016, and their social media and blog following have grown rapidly, including followers from all over the world who look to CC and Mike for design and building inspiration for their own homes. I'm so happy and delighted to introduce you to Carissa Miller. Hi, Carissa. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, LuAnn. Thanks so much for having me.
Carissa, I've been enjoying our little conversation before we hit record here. There's a couple of different ways I want to take this interview. You have learned some great lessons in running your interior design firm, I would say by the School of Hard Knocks, it sounds like. So I'm interested in getting into that. You also work with your husband, which is, I know, also a great topic for us to get into. And you also, like so many of the other designers that we've met throughout the years on the podcast, also came to your interior design business sort of by opportunity rather than design. And so, of course, you come from, we said in the introduction, you come from a career as a professional photographer, which is, sort of along the path there, right? Creative and high quality and understanding an eye. But moving into design was sort of a happy opportunity. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? I think maybe we'll start there and set the stage.
Sure. I would call it a completely unexpected opportunity, LuAnn. I started an Instagram account, and that was purposeful. I felt a stirring in my creative soul, so to speak. I love photography. It will always be a part of my life, but it was no longer working for me as a career. Just the unusual hours. I was doing weddings heavily. I think one year I did 25 to 30 weddings. I mean, you could do the math out of 52 weeks. That's over half of the weekends, And I am a mother to 3 kids. And as they started getting older, it just was not working. And all the working on the weekends, And so I felt kind of this stirring and this creative stirring, so to speak, of rebranding. But I didn't have a plan with that. I just told my husband, I feel like I'm supposed to rebrand and take the photography out of my name. And, I don't really think he thought much of it. He had a full-time career. He was in oil and gas for a decade. And then he also ran his dad's company. So he was busy with that, and my creative career was kind of always just a side thing that had, nothing to do with him, so to speak. And so I started that Instagram account in the end of 2016, and we had I should mention, we have always done construction projects, and I guess I would say design projects on the side from the time we've been together since high school. And since high school, my husband would work with my dad, who was in construction. And so we have always I've designed and he's built our own homes. And that was always something we did on the side, though. We never shared it, and it was not a career, so to speak. It was just a side gig. And that all changed when I started the Instagram account, and I had designed our home and he had built it, and I shared a photo of our bedroom. And that photo kind of went viral. One Kings Lane featured us. They were asking for my design advice. Pottery Barn featured us. Style Me Pretty House. And I remember calling my best friend and going, oh my gosh, One Kings Lane is asking me for design advice, you guys. Like, what do I say? And I go back to that moment, LuAnn, it was kind of a beautiful moment because in my heart, I knew what, I am a creative. I am a visionary type of person. And I did know exactly how to answer that question. I just needed to dig inside of myself and realize, I know how to answer this question. I mean, I started the entire design of this room over one concept, and it built and grew from there. And so I answered the question, and the next thing I know, people were asking us to work for them, and it's just snowballed since then.
That's incredible. I mean, the thing about it is that, first of all, I think we could run right past a line that we shouldn't, which is you had been building and designing homes for yourself. So not just once, more than once, right?
Multiple times. And I grew up on job sites with my dad. My dad can build a house from the ground up by himself, and he's done that from pouring the concrete to laying the plumbing. And so I kind of grew up around that. And then it just became a natural thing when my husband and I got married. At first with my dad's help, we would build these houses, and we would build and move every 2 years. And it basically was a business. It was just a side business.
Right.
So I would design a house, we'd build it, sometimes the houses would sell before, we even put it on the market, And so looking back, the opportunity was there. We just, we had other careers, and we weren't thinking of it as a full-time career.
Right. And where I'm going in that is that is an education. So someone could say, oh, Carissa Miller, Cece and Mike, another designer who is a designer because she's an Instagram sensation. But that negates all of that legitimate education along the way, right? I mean, look, it's so funny because we often talk about interior designers, whether they are formally educated or not formally educated. And to me, there's the education. Like what I'm saying is I'm a window treatment professional. Guess what? There is no college for window treatments. There is no university. Does that make me any less, capable of what I do? And that's why if someone has a body of work and they're doing good work and they're running a business and they're profitable, if the design, the scale, the proportion, if all of the technical is right and they're making money, yes, go ahead, sweetie. You don't need anybody's approval, right? And so,
absolutely,
right. And so you're growing up on construction sites with your father. We all know what that's like. My parents were in the food industry, so I know what I absorbed, and I know that like by the time I was 16, I could be waitressing, and it's all the different things that you learn at the table, and you learn on the weekends with your parents or the days that school are closed, and you go with your parents to work, and then you and your husband literally do this over and over and over again. And so what I want to say is that yes, just like you said, one photograph went viral, but you did have the answer. You did know what your point of view was on it. You did know what to say because you actually had spent a lifetime cultivating that, right?
Absolutely. And that's actually something I'm so passionate about because I just feel like I see so many creative professionals who are scared to take that leap of faith, and you have that seed planted inside of you, and whether it's your purpose or what you were put on this earth to do, like you know inside of you that you're supposed to do it, but maybe you're scared and it's a little more comfortable over here when somebody else is paying your paycheck, but you're not fulfilled, And I think the creative industry being a creative professional, man, I mean, it can sometimes take a leap of faith to get out there, whether it's starting an Instagram account or, saying, hey, I'm sitting down and I'm making a business plan and I'm setting a date for when I'm going to quit my job and start this, whatever it is, being a creative professional, getting started, you have to take that first step. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And for me, it was all there, you're right, for years. I have actually said that same thing to many different people, is that I've spent years, people might look at it and be like, oh, she started an Instagram account and it went viral and it was so easy. Oh my goodness. I mean, I've educated myself in photography for 6 years. That played into my success once I started the Instagram account, so there was that 5 years, and there was the 5 years before that when I, did some blogging and learned how to build my own website. It wasn't just a snap of the fingers,
right, Right. It's what, way back, I always forget to mark, I really should mentally mark the episode number because I certainly reference it and often enough. But when Erica Ward was on the show, I want to say she was episode 9 or something like that, 14, whatever it was. But she talked about your transferable skills. I'm like a broken record because when Erica said that on that show, it hit me like a thunderbolt. It's like, yes, whatever we do, we show up as the accumulation of everything we've taken in through our entire life and who we are and what we've experienced and every tiny little bit of job. And to your point, being with your dad as he built houses. And then, I just know the process. I have built one house myself. One time we built a house, and then another time we moved into our townhouse and we gutted the kitchens and bathrooms. Okay. So that was the extent of that. But just doing those two things, do you know what stands out in my mind the most? The mistakes that I made. Right? Like there's like 3 or 4 mistakes. And I know what happens is you don't make those mistakes when you go forward to the next time. And so there's lots of things that go smoothly and you pat yourself on the back because you designed a perfect fireplace and the stone is just absolutely right and the mantle's absolutely perfect. But it's when you do something and you make a mistake and you're saying to yourself, now when you go to do it again, it's so big that you don't do it again. And so for you, visualizing you and Mike doing this build process for yourself over and over and over, what other education is there needed, right?
It's so funny you say that because I could not agree with you more. I have even told my clients, I have built my own home so many times and made every single selection. I tell my clients, you are going to get to learn from mistakes I made and I'm going to make them right for you.
Right.
I mean, literally Michael and I, I'll tell you a mistake right now on my personal home on the west facing patio. We have a pool in our backyard and Michael and I look at each other and like, what were we thinking? Just blaring sun, right? In the, best part of the evening. And so what do? Every time we design a house for a customer, for a client, the first thing we say is you want to consider the way this backyard is laid out and where your evening sun is going to be because we didn't do that. And we want you to learn from our mistakes.
Right. And you can't sit and eat dinner at 6 o'clock on this patio because the sun is too low for the awning to do any good and too strong to get out of your face.
And so I actually love being vulnerable and I think that realness with our clients is also what makes them feel comfortable. I'm not trying for them to walk in here and act like, I'm perfect or you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm going to give you the experience that I have and I'm going to give you everything that I've got. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we've built a lot of time, so I have a lot of experience.
Exactly. Well, it's the truth and I love it. And I love that the other part that, like I said, you look and you're like, hey, one Instagram post and the next thing you know, I'm an Instagram sensation, but it is looking at all of the career that goes behind it, the work that goes behind it. And it also to just also highlight the fact that, yes, that one picture went super viral, but it was taken by a professional photographer, right? You wasn't just like the rest of us with our iPhone or whatever it was. And so, and we have had, I also had recently had Julia Miller on the show. And she's also a woman who has come to her interior design firm through designing her own and building her own home and posting the process on Instagram. And the next thing you know, same thing, people responding, people reaching out, people saying, I want you to design my home. The exact trajectory, different experiences prior, different career experience prior. But in her case, she said one of the key things was from day one, professional photography. So she had to invest in it. You invested 6 years to learn it and to do it well and all those weekends away from your babies. But the idea is that when we come to Instagram and we might have to start with iPhone photography, we might not be at a level, but then don't wonder why the same trajectory doesn't happen, right?
Oh, absolutely. I hate that when I see people getting discouraged because I see so many women and just creative professionals who have what it takes. They really, they have the vision. Let me say that. They have the creative vision, but I might look at their content and just say, this isn't going to get you where you want to go. This people, a dark photo of a room, you have to take the time to learn. And if you don't, if you're not in a place where you can pay for the professional photography, you have to at least be honest about how important it is. If you're trying to grow your presence online, to grow your brand, professional photography or high quality photography is so important.
Yeah.
And I do believe it was instrumental in being a catalyst for where we are now.
Right. Well, it's like I always say, you have to, prepare to get lucky. So that's exactly that's the essence of that statement.
I love that.
Right?
I love that.
Right. So
yeah.
all of that work and building and designing and work with your husband, and then you're learning from your father, and then your own career, perfecting your skills of photographer, that was all your preparation to put the one picture there, the photo there, and then to be lucky that Kings Lane saw it. Right. And
Yes.
so that's it. And then if one Kings Lane called you and asked for your opinion on design, and it wasn't from a place of experience and from full, all the years that went into getting to that one photograph, that would have been a flash in the pan. They would have been like, thanks, sweetie, we'll call you next time, but not. Right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So I love pulling back the curtain on this type of thing, because I said to you off air, it reminds me of your story, reminds me of Carrie Underwood. Every time I hear a Carrie Underwood on the radio.
Oklahoma girl.
Right. It's the truth. And every time I hear her on the radio, I cannot hear her sing and think, what if there was no American Idol? Like, what if she never got the shot? Because this is such a powerhouse of a voice and a talent. And so it's sort of that. It's like, okay, whatever lucky thing got her, the audition, but it was all those years of singing, to her community and to her family that, were able to bring the actual performance that got the attention and, and then of course from there, and that's what we're going to talk in now. From there, even like Carrie Underwood, it's not sail into easy street. Now it's like Carrie's a small town Oklahoma girl, and she's got to learn how to make it in the big city in the music industry.
Yep.
You now are getting all this attention and all the clients are coming. It's like, oh wait, we're running a firm and it's other people's money, right?
I see where you're going with this, and I see where you're going with this, and let's do it.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. So you have your opportunity. The calls come, and now you start to duplicate for what you've done for yourself and Mike for strangers and clients. And now we're going to hit another level of awareness and aha and growing pains, right?
Oh, absolutely. Growing pains. Absolutely.
Looking back, tell us take us looking back. Like, okay, so you guys you're accomplished. You don't do that many design builds, and you're not with you're not going in scared to death, I'm sure. But there had to be a moment or a comeuppance where you said, "Whoa, this might not be just what we thought it would be." Can you think of something like that?
Oh yeah, I have one moment just blaringly, like that just stands out, that Michael and I always reference that the number one thing that when that transfer started happening between doing just projects for ourselves, which is what it always was. It was, we built our own house and we flipped our own house. Now we have to do it for a client. Right. You know what I mean? We have to have contracts, policies, procedures, all of those things. And I'm just going to be honest with you. We didn't at first. At first it was like, this friend told this friend about us, and it was, we were just taking these meetings. And the thing that stands out to me is that, and it was such a learning, I tell my kids, failure, making a mistake is just an opportunity to learn. A failure, it's not a failure unless you keep repeating it,
right.
So 100% this one mistake just stands out so blaringly obvious to us, that we had been kind of referred to a couple through a friend, and we were meeting with them for months. I did design boards. We never had them sign a contract. We were just meeting with them and just kind of like, oh, you're, friend of a friend. It's all going to be so great. We were not protecting ourselves. We were not providing a safe framework for them either, of like, this is how to engage with us. This is what this process is going to look like, And so after 3 months of work, it just, we didn't even end up doing the project. It was just, kind of one of those wake up moments, because we had worked with people before that, but we were still just kind of not approaching this from this is a business that we need to operate in this exact, in a professional way. When we meet with a client, we do this. It's all about processes and procedures, and contracts are there to make both people feel safe, both people. And we weren't even, we weren't going about things in the right way. And we wasted 3 months of our time and learned a huge lesson. We both, came up for air and looked at each other and were like, all right, what did we do wrong and how can we learn from it? And that is something, if you are not, as a business owner, with every single, so even 2 years later with a remodel we just did that I think is some of our best work ever that we haven't been able to reveal yet, but we're saying, how can we make that process better? What can we learn every single time with our project manager, with our other designers? What can we do to make the process better every single time? And I never want to stop asking that question. I never want to stop asking it.
Well, you shouldn't. I mean, WindowWorks is almost at 4 decades now. Yeah. And we just changed a procedure yesterday. This is, we're in a meeting, we're talking about, a ball got dropped and a order came to us and it wasn't manufactured correctly. But when we take it back to the point of, I always say on the show, go back to the one thing that you could have done differently to change the outcome. And when we took it all the way back, it was like, whoa, that really, we had an opportunity here to have this not happen. And so then we started brainstorming. Well, how can we avoid that? What would have to happen? And so the first suggestion comes out, well, how about this? And then everybody's looking like, well, I don't know that we're really going to do that so often, right? Because know when it's not a good idea. You're just like, well, that would work, but I don't see us doing it. And then we ultimately came up with a workaround that would avoid this, at least an attempt to avoid it. Okay. And so we all agree. I look at all eyeballs. I'm like, okay, so we all agree you're going to add this to your job. Just, this is not going to be part of what you do in the morning and blah, 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 blah. And then, what's the last and final thing I say? The person whose job it now becomes to do that. The last thing I said before we went on to the next topic is I looked at her and I said, go to the Google Doc with your job description this morning and add that in for me. Print it and replace it in everybody's manual. You know what I mean? Because that is learned from hard years of, we all came up with a great idea on Monday morning, but 4 Mondays later, we have the same problem again. I thought we decided to do it this way. Oh, that's right. I forgot. Or I didn't think you really meant it. I wasn't sure. It's like, no, this was decided. We're changing the book for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's another one. Job descriptions. I mean, these are all things that we did not start with, because it was just my husband and I sitting here going, I'm sorry, wait a minute, what's happening? All these people want us to remodel their house or do this. And, it was just unexpected. And so we've definitely learned from mistakes. And I'm not ashamed to say that. And each time we just get better. And I want to just continue getting better and better. And we are so unique in that we are full service design, also construction, also remodel. And so the contract, and just the initial consultation, it is such a complicated process because every project looks so different. Every project looks so different. So it has really been, it's been quite a process for us to get that whole part of our business down, from the first time we sat with them to signing the contract to communicating with them throughout the process of their project, and to find universal processes and procedures that work for remodel, for design, and for construction.
And so did you, now you're really, look, the Instagram account, that picture happens in 2016. And 2018 is when you really feel like you're moving and grooving, and you've got a pipeline of clients. And now this has really become, you and Mike look at each other and say, I think we're in business, right?
I love that you said that, because it's exactly how it happened. I would almost say 2017 was kind of like this yin and yang, this pull of like, well, wait a minute. And we're still kind of trying to juggle it on the side, but we're both like, well, wow, this is really hard because he's still trying to run this whole other company. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And but he has such a love for the construction process. That's his true love. But it's like what I shared with you early. It's scary. It's scary to take that leap of faith and say, we're going all in. We're leaving all this behind. We're going all in on this design and construction business, you know? So that was still going on in 2017, despite having multiple projects. 2018 was when I think we both were like, okay, like it's time to acknowledge this. Like we are doing
There's
this,
an elephant in the room, and it's a multi-million-dollar interior design firm.
Oh my gosh. Like seriously, wake up and smell the coffee or roses or whatever it is here. This is our thing, and let's get this figured out and do it right. You know, because that instance I told you about in 2017 where, you know, I mean, it's almost, but I'm an open book here, and somebody out there needs to hear that.
Sure.
Like, don't look at our website, don't look at our shop, don't look at our Instagram account and see the pretty pictures and see the end product and think that, you know, we're not a work in process too, because everybody just has to start somewhere, you know, and we made mistakes. That instance I told you about in 2017. I mean, hello, you know, everything should start with a contract, of course. You know what I mean? But here we are just sitting and meeting with people for 2 or 3 months and just talking and probably spending 40, 50 hours, you know, here's some design. And we didn't protect ourselves. And we also didn't communicate, you know, safe and healthy boundaries to our client of how to interact with our company, you know? So then 2018, you know, it's like, all right, we need to start. What's our contract? What's our process? You know, and we are still in 2020 working on refining that process.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. And so you have the moment, that's where I was going to go with all that, is you have the moment where, okay, this is a real thing. And, you know, Mike takes whatever steps to leave the other career, and the two of you lean in and you decide to do it. And you said several times that now it's time. We need contracts. We need processes. We need policies. But did you do everything, Carissa, from a working, you know, live situation? Okay, that didn't work, revise it, because it's possible to do that. I know that. Or did you look outside to the industry and said, well, you know, I don't know. I mean, did you hire a business consultant? Did you take any courses? Or did the two of you just put your 15, 20 years build experience together and say, okay, we know how to do it. We just have to sit down and make it a process?
Yeah, LuAnn, the answer is D, all of the above. All of the above. I mean, literally, as you were going through that list, I could check every single one of them off at some point. So, first of all, you know, I've mentioned my friend Bria Hamill, who you've interviewed. I remember going to market in 2018 and her just being so gracious. So it cracks me up when we talk about this, because here I've sat here and said, 2018 was really when I was like, oh, wait, this is happening. You know what I mean? Like, I got to figure this out. And I had been at market and met Bria, and she's on all these panels, and she was just so gracious. And I remember getting to have one-on-one time with her and just asking her and her right hand, Katie, some questions about how they do things with contracts. So yes, I went to other, you know, industry professionals like that. You know, we did hire a business consultant about that same time. So interesting that you bring that up. That person worked with us for 6 months and really helped us with contracts, with procedures. We would meet with him once a week for like 4 to 5 hours. And it was hard to give up that 4 to 5 hours because we needed to be working, but we knew we have to do something. So he really helped us just talk through all these different complications with, well, a design client looks different than a remodel client, looks different than a new construction client, and all the things in between on whether they want full service design or whether they want, you know, just a, you know, design finishes package where I just kind of help them pick out their tile and lighting for their home. You know, every single client wants a different level of service and interaction. And so how do we create a contract and procedures and policies that work for every different client. And so we hired a business consultant. We worked with him for 6 months and got to a good place and are still having to revise that.
Sure, absolutely.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah. So all of the above. And then also you said, about us just digging in. Yeah. Then there was a lot of, Mike is very much the details, the accounting, the behind the scenes. I'm the creative, the visionary, the content management. So, we are good in that we complement each other in that regard, but so he's very much, contract, all of those things. He has an MBA. So I've never written a contract or done any of that in my life. He kind of gathers all the information. We talk, he puts it all together, talks to a lawyer or whatever he needs to do. And then we sit down and I write out, no, that doesn't really fit my design process. You need to change this,
Mm-hmm.
So then we just did a lot of that too, where we're kind of digging in and revising, just the two of us.
I love it. I mean, it is the evolution of a well-run business. It is getting peer support. It is getting consultative services, people who already know more than you know about what you don't know about. And it is the constant day-to-day commitment to just always paying attention personally with personal accountability about how you do something and can you do it better, right? Just actually looking in the mirror and saying, this isn't working. Let's do it this way and let's talk about doing it a different way, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And so here's the other thing that I'm going to just take a stab at. That probably building a business of this size that is not going at a slow pace, that is barreling down the track with your husband, probably also added a whole fun layer to it, right?
Oh, all fun all the time, LuAnn. All fun all the time.
I run my business with my husband too, and our cousin. So I got two men and me.
Let's do it.
LuAnn. That's it. So the thing is,
a business with her husband to another.
That's right. Right. So what I know is that all of this that we've just covered, your experience that brings you to the moment, the actual moment of the Instagram, and then growing it and having it go like wildfire and go viral, then the new clients coming on board and the big opportunities and the mistakes, and then the hiring of the coach and getting industry help. I know all of that is a bear to do only if you have to make the decisions yourself, and maybe you go to a spouse or a friend as a sounding board. But you add to it that you need agreement between you and a spouse on every decision. I know that's like, wow.
Yeah.
So tell us some of your lessons in that and how you guys have come to manage this really big moving train and keep agreement and keep the vision and staying on the same track, because that's what it's about. I know that, right?
Absolutely. First of all, let me say, we've been together since high school. We're high school sweethearts. We are, best friends. We are opposites attract. And nothing could have prepared me for the transition in our marriage of what operating a business, together is like. And so the first thing I'll just lead with that. Wow. In those first 2 years, the key for us, what we have found out, is employees. So when it was just the two of us, it just exponentially increased the amount of interactions that we would have that would cause tension, what I mean? Both in our business and our marriage, So for instance, let me just give you an example. If you want to just set me through the roof, like ask me to do an Excel spreadsheet, I will literally, one of my, I call her my mentor, she's my good friend and mentor, Cindy Kane. She said this phrase about me. She was like, your creative mind can't be bothered with that riffraff, Carissa. Right. Your creative mind can't be bothered with that riffraff. And so if you want our business to function as well as possible, keep me in my lane and you in your lane. Well, those first years, it's like we're both like going into each other's lanes. Right. It was just, and that was a mess because, so for instance, I remember one time I was doing a design line item. This is before we, thank God, got our design system that we use now, which has been a godsend, literally. But so I was doing line items, and he's helping me. This is like, we're taking it back to like 2017, 2018 here. And he got out a ruler and handed me an Excel spreadsheet. And I was like, oh, my throat is closing off. I cannot. No. And he's like, Carissa, you have to do this. And I'm like, I look back on that and I'm like, no, I don't have to. That's not my, we need to hire someone for that. That is not my, and the big picture there is, yes, everyone in a company should be doing, yes, you have to do some things you don't like to do, but that's not the most advantageous use of my time for our company. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
For me to spend 2 hours doing a line item, like I need to be out creating, doing large visionary work, brand management, And so we've learned a lot since then. And so we have a project manager who is incredible. She is so good at what she does, and she's such a compliment to me and to Michael. And so my answer to that is, what I've realized is, like, good employees to kind of be a part of this team with us so that Michael can be in his lane and I can be in my lane, and we're not constantly crossing over.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense.
And that's what she does for us. She's kind of like the buffer, where it's like, so first of all, Excel spreadsheets and invoicing, do not even, I'm out. Okay.
Right. I'm done. My eyes are glazing over, there's a buzzing in my ears.
Large picture vision meetings, all those kinds of things, what product you should put in that room and what I think the client, that is my lane, But so before, Michael would try to talk to me about that stuff, about invoices, and I would just shut down. Well, she's incredible at that. I don't know if you do the Enneagram or if you've heard of that, the personality testing. Well, I'm a big believer in it, and just even in how people interact with one another. Well, she is perfect because she kind of has that one wing, like Michael. He's the perfectionist, so she gets him, and she gets kind of his detail orientedness. So she'll go in and sit with him and do the 1 to 2 hour meeting, with invoicing and the shipping and all of these things that I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't want to do that. And I need to go over here and think big picture on this design and oversee that. And that's where I need to be. So I don't, that's kind of my answer to that is, I think employees are so important. And with our growth, employing the right people to complement us as a husband-wife team,
yes.
is so important.
You can't know how much you are, speaking right to my belief systems, and what I know has made us successful at Window Works is exactly the same. We have different lanes. We have 3 partners, and, Bill, our cousin, is the lead installer, and he is, I've said it on the show before, he is one of the best window treatment installers you really put up against anybody. His experience, knowledge, expertise, demeanor, everything. He was built for this work. My husband, he has an MBA in business like your husband. His undergrad is in accounting. So all day long, he's going to sit there with the spreadsheets and the percentages and the margins and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And I'm the person, just point me, go. In the beginning when I was young, it was like, hey, we need 20,000 in sales this month. Okay, boom. I'm out cold calling. I'm doing this. I'm knocking on doors. Oh, now we need $1 million in sales. Okay, I'm doing that. It's just point me and go. And then it morphed as I got older into that part of the vision. So they are, we can't do what we do without them. They are the ones head down doing all of the work that makes the machine run. But I've said it before. It's like, I remember in the late 80s, early 90s saying, I think it was probably early 90s, I think we should get email. And they're saying, what's email? Then I'm saying, I think we should get a website. They're like, what's a website? And then in the 2000s, I'm like, I think we should start a podcast. And they're like, what's a podcast? So I've always been the one that looks up and looks down. And where are we going? What's the next thing? But you can't do it with just our personality or just their personality. You do need the complement. And I have learned, sounds like you have as well, that the magic is in respecting the other person's superpower and trusting their decision on it, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's so interesting when you were saying that, because we have often described ourselves as the gas and the brake. You have to have both to run a car.
That's a great
if you're
analogy.
on the gas the whole time, you're going to wreck. And if you're on the brake the whole time, you're never going to go anywhere.
That's
all right.
right.
So
That's
you have to have both. But
Yes.
at the same time, it is a challenge when you're married to find that lane where you're using both, and everybody, is doing what they're best at. And for us, the flow of that is best when we have a great project manager like we do. And, adding, as we continue to grow and add people, making good hiring decisions to complement us is so important in that process.
Oh, that is, let me tell you what, you're not as familiar with as many episodes, but my cousin Eileen Hahn, she is an organizational behavioral expert, and she has, her clients are the San Diego Padres and the Texas Rangers and Anheuser-Busch. But
wow.
Yes, she's amazing. And she will come in, and a CEO will reach out and say, all my people aren't playing in the sandbox. Like, our productivity has gone down. Our sales have gone down. I don't know what's going on, but I had a crack team until about 2 years ago, and it's nonsense, right? And so she goes in and she does extensive testing. So she doesn't use the Enneagram. She uses another analysis tool. But it is where it starts, and it's based in two really important things, which is your job description, which you talked about earlier, and your actual innate personality. What are your innate strengths and weaknesses? And so over the couple of years, she's been in my book, and she's been on the show, and she was at LuAnn Live. And I just keep bringing her in because her expertise has helped us at Window Work so much that I knew it would help the designers too. And I kept saying, you need to do some products and services for our level businesses. Like, we all can't put out $150,000 to hire you for the year, right? And so she has done that little by little, and we have made our last 3 hires using her job descriptions, her process, her interview process, her follow-up process, and her onboarding process. And I'm telling you what, it is like magic. It is just such a difference. I've been the one that has hired in our firm all these years, and I've done a really good job at hires. I've done it, but I've done it intuitively because I happen to be a very intuitive person. But this is like, oh, see, you used to, I don't know, skip, and now you run 4-minute miles. It is completely different when you do it. So the way you're describing is you look at the different players that you have in your team, and you evaluate your strengths and your personality, and then you hire around it to support it and to fill in the gaps, right?
Right. And I love that you use the word support, because that is what it is. And that is why I think back in 2018, oh my goodness, just when I use that gas brake analogy, it was like gas brake, and we're trying to find this rhythm in our business. And it's so hard to hire, you know what I mean? Because the process you're talking about with is it your cousin?
Yes.
You said, I mean, I'm looking her up the second we go off.
She's amazing.
Our business consultant, identified, our business it's so unique in that there's honestly, and one of the things he identified is there's 3 different businesses really, there's, construction, there's design, and then there's our online shop,
Oh yeah. Completely different businesses.
And then we're a married couple. And so, I mean, imagine hiring when, all of those factions need to communicate together, both the husband and wife, the team, the 3 different companies, so it takes a very specific person, and we feel so blessed to have found our project manager. And when you say about being intuitive, that's kind of how I felt. Like I was like, let's just work together, because, I'm a very specific personality. When you talk about this analysis, I'm a number 3 on the Enneagram. So I'm the achiever, what I mean?
Yep.
And so it takes a very specific personality to, to work well with me, but also work well with Michael,
right.
So we feel so blessed to have her. And then also with our designers who we're bringing on, it's just kind of a feeling, that it's like this person works with us,
Mm-hmm.
but to have an arsenal like that, like with your cousin, as
Oh,
we continue to grow, where you're
it's
like,
amazing.
yeah,
You cannot know the difference. I cannot describe to you the difference. When I think about all the really terrific hires that I've made over the years, I feel like, what do they say? It's like Michael, what the heck is his name? Michael Jordan. He's made 500 game winning, shots, but
right,
he's lost 1,000. You know what I'm saying?
right,
So there have been a lot of great hires, but the truth is that there have been a lot that were not great for a whole lot of reasons. And when they're not great, it's not great for anybody. It's not great
right.
for the person. It's not great for you. It's not great for the other team members. And to have it down and know the components that go into it is just game changer. And then, but to bring it back to you and your husband and managing all of this, right? So it's like you have your own personality set to manage yourself individually, understand and really hone in to your skills and your superpowers, respect the other person's, you and to respect his to respect yours, then add into the mix all of the employees. Like, we didn't even bring into the mix 3 teenagers that you have. We could just say, okay, that's crazy pants, right? But the thing is, at the end of the day, the husband and wife dynamic is different than the partner to partner dynamic, because you can still, I know there has to be pressure points where if he were strictly a partner, all of the things are there. The interest in the superpowers are different, and the things that he wants you to do or the things that you want him to do don't line up. But when it's a partner, friend, stranger, cousin, whatever it is, there's a certain little line that you will say, okay, that's not being nice anymore. Stop. But husband and wife, when, everything is crazy, I think it's as important to keep that line, but it's harder to do. Do you have, like, for me, it's a conscious decision. LuAnn,
Yes.
stop talking. Pretend he's a
100%.
stranger.
And not bringing husband-wife dynamic into business partner dynamic. If you figure that one out, LuAnn, you let me, I mean, if you have the magic recipe, because we're still working on it, and I'm, I'm an open book here. I need more growth on that, because it's like, all right, let's keep our business at our business, our meetings, and it's such a challenge to then not go home and get in the car. And, also just with the nature of our business, so project based, we might be, at a football game on Saturday for our son, and we're out in Owasso, and we need to go drive by 2 of our projects. And so then it's Saturday and we're walking through the project, and we're, then on the car drive home discussing this project. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it's
24/7.
It bleeds over.
Right.
And so to not bring that, to keep your business partner hats on, first of all, it does help and that's why I said about that, having the employees is so key. Because, when you're in a meeting with an employee, not to mention, I already crack up because our project manager, I laugh and I'm like, oh, you're going to see some husband and wife stuff here from time to time. And she just laughs. And it's like, it's just part of the gig, But it does help diffuse it, because it feels more like, when you have a team meeting around a table, it kind of helps take care of that, because you're going to have your professional partner hat on. You know what I'm saying?
But it falls off. I'm just telling you, it falls off. At least ours does.
That's the challenge, because then when you're not at work in an office in that business setting and you're driving around on a project just with your kid, that's when the business partner hat falls off, and it's really easy to bring in that husband wife.
Yes.
Like, you've asked me that 10 times and I already told you what I thought. You know what I mean? It's so
it's a challenge.
We're still working on it.
Yeah, it's a challenge. And I can think back over the years. I also feel like, look, I'm much older than you are. We're married probably a whole lot longer, and in business obviously a whole lot longer. And it's like anything else. Like, the things that I would fight tooth and nail for in the beginning, I just will now literally, he'll say blah, 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 blah. And my brain will go, no way. I don't want to do that. That's ridiculous. We should do this. And I'll be like, okay. All of that goes through my mind and out comes, okay. And he just looks at me and I said, and because what I immediately go to, how much does this matter? Does this matter? Is this critical? Could you just say okay to his way? Whereas, 25 years ago, everything mattered. It all was important. Like, I have a different opinion. Yep. You have to hear it, And so now I just process it a little quicker. But I have to say that will leave more opportunity is certainly not the right word here. That does leave the door open for the 3-4 times a year where it does matter. And I'm not willing to roll and say, okay, right away. Now we're going to go to the mat. We're going to do this.
Well, and that's what our business consultant really, and it is interesting too, because, when you say about, when we talk about bringing husband, wife, and dynamics in, for me as a wife, learning within the business, mindset to say, I am the head of design, you're the head of construction. And so there might be a choice that I make as the, CEO of the design division that maybe wouldn't have been the choice that he would make. Right. You know what I mean? But
it's the truth. Well, and I think that is one of the keys. For us, we have always identified the areas that we each have final say on. And that I have shared on the podcast also in an episode that we did on husband and wives. And for us, the three of us are partners, but we each have our area. And so Billy is install, I'm sales, and now marketing, and I was employees always, and Vin was always finance and all of that stuff. And so what happened is we can have a disagreement. We can have something come up that we have to kick around, and we can have a disagreement, and that disagreement can go to the mat. We can really, go all in, whoever's got an opinion. But ultimately, if there is no agreement between the partners whose area it in makes a decision, and the others have to say sta jajit. You have to shut up. You have to be done. And that is something that we instinctively did. I don't know why or how. I just know that we truly instinctively did it. But it is something that's being reinforced by various coaches that we've had throughout the years, and it's a constant refrain. I've mentioned also on the show lately how Eileen has been coaching us the last 2 years at Window Works on developing our team and developing a succession plan, because, we're at that point where, okay, what do we got? 5 years left here? What are we doing? Is it going to be 90 and like going on awning sales? And so, and so the thing is, like, literally, at least once a meeting, she'll say, well, this is installation. Bill, what's the final answer? Or this is sales. Lou, what's the final answer? Vin, this is finance. What's the final answer? And you have to just suck it up then and say, okay, final answer. I don't like his final answer, but that's it, right?
I love that. And, it really took, when we both are sitting here saying we own businesses, we run and operate them with our husbands, and we're both sitting here saying we have brought in consultants and coaches. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't, that has to be noted, that the importance of that and the importance of stepping back and bringing in a third party to identify areas of growth like that,
That's right.
And
because you can't see it. You're in the weeds.
You can't see it.
I can coach you and you can coach me, but I can't coach myself.
Exactly. And that our business consultant coming in, and we worked with him for almost 6 months, and it really helped give me the confidence, LuAnn, to say, this is design. It's my decision.
Right.
And, put my business partner hat on, not my wife hat, and say, I can make this call. I'm looking at the POLs. I'm looking, I'll throw a example out there for you. To me, for what I do and the importance of the marketing and content side of what I do, which you understand, I don't think that's my husband's lane, and that he can understand the importance to our brand, at times. So if I were to say, we're doing this flip, and I'm taking this budget for furniture for the flip, for the reveal, and I'm going to buy some new furniture for the reveal because that's so important to our brand. People don't follow CCMI. They don't come to us because, we flipped a house and it was just dry bones bare.
Right.
And, no, what do they follow us for? It's the entire reveal. And you might not understand that I need a new dining room table and I need a sofa and I need this rug to go in this reveal. But I'm looking at the POLs, I'm looking at our budget, and I'm saying this is a design call and I'm making it.
Right.
And it took a while to get there, LuAnn. It took a long while, and even in our marriage, for me to be able to, as a businesswoman, even have the confidence to say, no, I know what I'm doing, and I know the importance of this to our brand. This is my call.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Such a growth in personal and relational, right? To be able to do that. And the thing is, I can hear that the respect is there. It's he's learning little by little too that, right, Carissa has this. She keeps steering this part of our business and it keeps going in the right places. And so therefore he's able to say, that's your superpower, right? Like you wouldn't ask him where the I-beams go. You wouldn't say, move it over 2 inches, like, right? Or
you are saying exact conversations we've had, and I think the thing is, he's so good at what he does. And the fact, so he's a number 1 on the Enneagram. He's the perfectionist, which I'm like, who you want building your house? A number 1, a perfectionist. And so when he's in his lane, it's just like, yeah, you do that, but I think my lane is so creative and visionary that at times that's uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like this blind faith you just have to have, where it's like, look, have I steered us wrong in this? When it comes to, marketing and online presence and brand awareness. And, if I say we need it, can you just trust me? And he can, but it's taken a while to get there, both, to build that trust for me to say, I need a whatever $1,000 budget for this reveal. I understand from somebody who's an accountant who's running those numbers to say, really? Like, do we really need to buy furniture for a house that we're just, you know what I mean? And so there's some of that yin and yang, gas and brake thing that we have come so far, but yet still have growth to do.
Well, as you each continue to give each other the trust in the areas that in the unheated, in the intellectual moment, recognize that the other has the superpower. As each time you give that trust over, even when you're in a heated moment or even just in a moment where it matters and it's not heated, it just matters to you. When you give it over and it comes out right time after time, then it becomes easier to just say, okay, this is her superpower. Okay, this is his superpower. And you will, and also too, you'll just get to the point too where it is the only way to get to resolution. Somebody has to be ultimately the one that makes the call. It's a logical thought. You can't have every decision go to a debate to the end. Because and think about what you're teaching your kids about respect in relationships, respect in other people's talents and gifts, and respect for yourself and showing up and taking responsibility for what is really the right call, and being able to share that in a way that gets the point across without it being an argument. Not that we're successful every time. I'm not even going to pretend that we are, but it does. I know we have just evolved so many years, myself and Vin, where I just look at him and I go, I got this.
Yeah.
I just have to really look at him. I got this. It's okay. And then if I'm being snippy, go back to the checkbook. I got this.
Yeah. I really appreciate you saying that and appreciate you bringing up my kids, because man, it's like you just jumped inside our lives and just spoke directly to what I have a daughter and I have 2 sons. And, it's hard at times when you're running a company and I think, mom guilt can seep in, mom guilt, you know what I mean? Yep. And it's like, in the last 3 to 4 years of their lives, mom has gone from, part-time creative entrepreneur doing photography that didn't really affect their schedules to running and scaling a company. Whoa. You know what I
Yes.
And I at times have felt mom guilt. And then I speak back to that and I say, no, what am I teaching my daughter? What am I
Yes.
teaching my sons? And they've seen us argue, they've seen us hash it out, and they've also seen us build something
Mm-hmm.
that we're pretty proud of.
Mm-hmm.
And they've gotten to have a front row seat to that. And we are so honest with our kids. I tell my daughter shows major creative entrepreneurial skills. She actually runs the Instagram account for my online shop. I'm going to tell you that.
Wow.
She runs it. She's 13. My,
Whoa.
yeah, yeah. My son, all of our kids, we involve them. My son is out there with his football friends doing demo and cleanup. My son is laying tile with my dad. I mean, it's kind of a family affair, and I believe in teaching them hard work ethic. And at the same time, we've been able to allow them to be a part of this. And for me to say, my daughter, you are a strong, capable woman, and
Yes.
should you choose, you are a strong, capable businesswoman and should be respected as such, and to say to my sons, basically learning about roles, both in business
Right.
and marriage, and that it's teamwork
Right.
is what it is,
Right.
and sons, you support your wife in that way. If she has a long day at work, you know what? You get to the grocery store and you do a load of laundry if that's what you need to do, because that's what marriage takes.
Exactly.
And so when, this first started and I started having that mom guilt seep in, as my daughter started getting older and my son started getting older, I really was like, no, I'm glad that I am teaching them this, that
Mm-hmm.
that they're going to have this framework to take into their own marriages.
That's right. Well, and I think that look, we've both raised our kids through a working business, right? Through a business, family owned and working. And that works for us. But I'm going to tell you why I think it works for us, because it's who we are. And so it's what's important to me and you to do first as a human being, and then to make sure as we do it, we look to our children and say, what am I teaching my child through this? Okay. So that's our experience. And even in our experience, the broad stroke is similar. There's 1,000 little things in our experience that are completely different. And then you look to somebody who has a completely different thing, but it's still authentic to them. So what I'm saying is take a stay-at-home mom. Take a stay-at-home mom, and I think about maybe the stay-at-home mom is teaching like way more enhanced learning. Maybe it's language learning. Their kid is interested in French, but instead of just supporting them by helping with their homework, they do I don't know, excursions to places where they
Yes.
speak French, right? Like the point is that whatever is really who you are is give the best of it to your kid. And that's how the universe is supposed to work, in my opinion. So it's not whether I stayed at home or I worked or you worked and the next one, worked for one of us. We have employees that work for us, right, Carissa, that are teaching
Right.
their children how important, like your project manager, whether or not she's at the age of having children yet or not, one day, if not already, her kids will hear her talk about how she is the rock, the foundation to yourself and your husband. She's the third leg on the stool to the
Yeah.
two of you. And that's so critical. So I think it's, as long as we understand what we are, who we are, why we do it, what's important to us about doing it, and then pull that out, that spark, that energy out, and present it to our children. And that's how it works, in my opinion, right?
Absolutely. I mean, an exact quote that I tell my kids, it's not about right or wrong. It's about what's right or wrong for you
Right.
in
There it
this
is.
regard. So
Exactly.
if I were, I've always had from the time I was a little girl, creative entrepreneurial desires.
Mm.
I would, build, my sisters and I would build like pine cone Christmas trees, and I'd take them in my little red wagon and sell them to people in our neighborhood. Okay.
There's that three achiever.
Right. I would take wildflowers from the field and press them and make art out of them.
Wow.
And, the signs are all there. It's so
Yes.
interesting. If I look back, the signs are all there. And there was a period of my time where I had kids and, you know, I thought, and I'm thankful for that time at home with them when they were babies, but I personally was missing. There was a hole missing. So when photography started, that really kind of filled that creative need I had. And then now it's gone in this full scale business, but that's what was right for me. And so that's all I'm trying to teach my kids is whatever is right for or wrong for you, be authentic to that. And to my sons to say, if it's right for your wife to be a businesswoman, you support her in that.
Right.
You love her in that, you lift her up and encourage her, and vice versa.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. So good. So good. It's such a crazy journey, and I'm smiling at you at the beginning of it and just thinking all of the things that you have. But I mean, and on one hand, the beginning of this iteration of it, I mean, with you, the two of you building and flipping houses together for so many years, that also not only was your framework and your foundation for the design skill and the build skill, it was also the framework for that, gas and brake relationship too, because that's a lot in there. I know, like I said, the one house and the one renovation we did, we would fight more during that than we would in any Window Works, event.
Well, it's funny how much we've grown because we could build a new construction home together in our sleep and without even breaking a sweat or having one single argument, like piece of cake. And that in itself says how much we've grown because
that's right.
Michael would totally respect my design vision. I truly think, I might get pushed back a few times on budget, but I would meet him in the middle, or he's grown so much with being like, man, I just trust her. If she says this is worth it, it's worth it,
right.
So remodels, whole nother, remodels we're still working on, we laugh about remodels because it's like remodels are 10 times the work. You've got to tear out and put back and coordinate with the client and, so we're still. And
what happens when you open that wall that you didn't know was going to be there, right? Or not there?
The entire design plan that me and, my team and I have done, it's like, oh, go back to the drawing board. You got to change it all, But again, when speaking to a budget for a project, you've got to fix that into your budget and you've got to plan for that with remodel, And so that's something we've had to build into our business and that we've learned, like we said at the beginning of this, from mistake. We very quickly learned in 2017 with that first year, whoa, we are not charging enough for remodels.
Right.
And remodels are completely different than new construction. Go back to the drawing board, readdress the contract, change it all up. We have to make sure that we're covering our time and the extensive amount of work that a remodel is going to take versus new construction.
Right. And you learn that by the school of hard knocks.
Yes, ma'am. We have learned that for sure by the school of hard knocks and just coming up for air after a project and being like, whoa, how many hours would you say we spent on that remodel, and how are we going to structure our business to make sure that we are, functioning properly and making money, when we do a remodel versus, there were times where we did it wrong, to be honest.
It's the truth. You have to do that. You have to do that step to evaluate. There's no question. Otherwise, I don't know if you said it on the off air or on the air conversation, but I remember you said you did on air failure when you said, failure isn't failure as long as you're repeating it. So that's the key.
That's what I tell my kids. I was like, the only true failure is making a mistake and repeating it over and over again. If you make the mistake, you're not a failure. That's just an opportunity to learn.
That's right.
A mistake is just an opportunity to learn to grow. A failure is a mistake that you make over and over and over because you don't take the opportunity to learn and grow.
Exactly right. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm so glad to get to know you. I mean, so it's just fun. You're just an awesome lady. And I imagine, being around you and your husband and your kids is probably a really, I just picture of happiness and I'm glad for you. I'm glad that you were really prepared to be lucky. I really am, because I think that's exactly what you did. You the two of you prepared yourselves, your whole life together, your lives before that, and the moment that the destiny struck, you just able to capitalize on it. So congratulations, really.
Thank you, LuAnn, and thank you for everything you're doing. Just in this space. It's such a, you're just a blessing to so many. I mean, I know the podcast that I listen to and the information that I'm giving, it's so helpful. I can't thank you enough. And even what you've shared about your own journey with your husband and growing Window Works and everything, it's just a blessing to so many. And I know we all appreciate you. And my project manager and I were like, we are bringing our headsets because we just like work together, and we're just going to like go back to the beginning. And while we're at work, listen to LuAnn's podcast.
Aww.
These are amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, so many guests just like yourself have spent their hour and a half with me and in turn with everyone else sharing their journey. And we all learn what we need right at the moment we need to hear it. All of a sudden, there it is. Yeah. It's like the aha moment, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I hope somebody today, whoever it is, that hears something in my words, whether it's about starting their journey or just having the courage to realize you don't have to be perfect. You just have to get started, and you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. Just learn from them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Carissa, for coming on.
Thank you, LuAnn. Thanks for having me.
Okay, before I get to my observations on Carissa's brilliant conversation today, I want to thank Monogram for sponsoring the show. If you are a kitchen and bath specialist or you are a design build firm, you really should sign up for the Monogram Designer Program. This free program is your link to product knowledge, support, education, to local monogram dealers. Everything that you need to confidently specify and sell luxury appliance packages to your clients, okay? So don't leave this money on the table. Get started today by going to monogram.com/LuAnn. Now, so happy that Carissa is so open and vulnerable about the valleys as well as the peaks, okay, about making mistakes and needing to learn from them and changing her business along the way as she made those mistakes, right? She said to us, as a business owner, you should always be asking yourself, how can we do this better next time? What can we learn from this? And I have to say, I know that this is the mindset that makes the difference in our businesses. I know that we've done this at Window Works many, many times. At this point in our career, we're still making changes. We're still growing. We're still improving our processes. There never gets to be this point where you just say, that's it. This is as good as it gets. It is ever growing. And when you go into it open-minded with that and that idea and know that you're always going to change and improve, it makes it so that you just roll with it, right? And it's clear that Carissa and Mike had this mindset from the very beginning. They made mistakes, but they didn't fall apart because of them. They kept going, and they continued to build in better processes and procedures. I love that when Carissa mentioned that at the one point in the beginning, they were working with a business consultant, and on one hand, it felt like they were giving up 5 hours a week working on the business, that they still needed that time to work in the business, but they knew that if they were going to get it right, if they were going to grow in the right way, they needed to invest that time to really understand what was happening and so that they could make the corrections and the changes along the way. And this is so important because we all should be open-minded when thinking about coaches and consultants, okay? Someone that can bring that outside perspective to tell us where we need to improve. And I know, I can just tell you, it's very hard to see our own areas of weakness, all right? But that outside person, as they get to know us through whatever we're doing with them, they understand and they start to see, I'm speaking for myself now, and particularly thinking of Eileen and Amber de la Garza, they start to see the things that you do that they just look at you and go, stop, like you're doing it again, right? Because you have this song playing in your head and you justify it. But this is, you get my point. It's that outside look that I think is really, really, really important. And the other really cool thing was when Carissa mentioned that her and Mike are like the gas, and the brake. And you can't be only having gas. You can't always have your foot on the pedal because then things are going to spin out of control. But you can't have your brake, your foot on the brake all the time either because you never get anywhere. So it's really a great analogy for running a business business with a partner. Although there are some unique challenges that come with running your business with a partner, whether it be a spouse or just a partner. But it's a good yin and yang, right? And I have to say that when Carissa mentioned and tied it to hiring the right people, I loved it because I know how important this is. And I know that the key is to evaluate your strength as an individual and then relate it to your business as a whole, so that not only so that you can stay in your lane, right, and do the things that you're really good at, but also so that when you hire, you know exactly where the gaps are, exactly where you need support, and so that you can fill in the right people, okay? And we know that hiring is important, but we also know it's hard to do, and it's hard to find the right people. And it's not something that you can just say, I got a good vibe off of this person. It's someone that you really have to know that you've evaluated and you have thoughtfully discovered and interviewed and made a good decision on. And I know, you've heard me mention 1,000 times how Eileen Hahn has helped us with this over the years at WindowWorks. And I have to say, the key is in the job descriptions, the job postings, the interview process, and then the onboarding things that you do once you hire, okay? And I can't tell you enough how really getting systemized with this has made the difference in our last several hires, okay? And the cool thing is that Eileen has been working one-on-one with interior designers for the last 2 years. And at this point, it's more than... I was going to say 30, but we're up to about 40 now, where she has worked with in a situation closely and really digging into the characteristics that are needed for all the positions in an interior design firm. And you know what she did? She came up with designer toolkits for hiring so that you can just go to eileenbhahn.com/designers, Eileen, EILEENBHAHN.com/designers. And if you need to hire a design assistant, you can purchase just that toolkit. If you need to hire an expediter, if you need to hire a senior designer, it's all right there. And she asked me, what did I think she should charge for these? I know, in having worked with her one-on-one in creating these for each of the positions at WindowWorks, it's hours. It's dozens of hours. But you know what? She decided to make them affordable. So I'm telling you, the value is there. Go to eileenbhahn.com/designers. And just like Carissa said, it is such a critical part to have the right people in the right position so that you can get to doing the things that you're so good at. All right. And so that's it for today. I hope that you took some important lessons from Carissa, from knowing that Instagram success on the surface holds a lot more work and in the weeds effort underneath and behind it. Okay. And that also the importance of processes and procedures in your business, all the way to the importance of hiring right people and being able to stick to your strengths that contribute to the business at the highest level. All right. I just want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for your comments on Instagram. Please follow me there, LuAnn Nigara on Instagram, and join in the party. All right. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.